From the Infowars.com studios, it's Alex Jones.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight. In the next segment, we're going to be joined by Owen Shroyer. We were talking earlier about Donald Trump's visit to Paris, meeting with the Sun King, Jupiter himself, Macron, who is pushing this climate deal that Trump wisely exited with the advice of his EPA pick and many other people who really understand what's going on with this. We have to get out of this. People who even support the idea that we've got to eliminate carbon dioxide, that it's going to burn the planet up, they know that this isn't going to do anything towards it. All it is going to do is just harm our economy. And there was a story from WorldNet Daily earlier this week. U.S. cities and states who are in love with the Paris climate deal face a new hurdle. A lot of these people have said, we're going to stay in the climate deal. We don't care if Donald Trump gets us out. Well, actually, no, you don't have a say in that. They say about a dozen states, including Washington, Oregon, California, Minnesota, Virginia, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, rebelled against President Trump when he withdrew from the Paris Climate Accord. And, you know, it was interesting because earlier this week we had Turkey come out and say, we're going to get out of it as well, because if the U.S. isn't in there to give us money, then there's nothing in it for us to shut our economy down. We're going to shut our economy down, but we're going to get massive cash payments from the United States. That only highlights what a horrendous deal this is for the United States, because we have to shut down our economy, and we have to do it at an earlier date than the so-called developing nations, but then we have to compensate them as well. So we shut down our economy and send massive amounts of money to these other countries, but more specifically, it's going to go to the leaders of those countries. That's the way foreign aid works, don't you understand? You've seen that before. We all know how that works. We all know that the person who was going to get the money was Erdogan himself. It wasn't going to go to the Turkish people. It wasn't going to go to their economy. It was something that he was going to pocket. That's the way it happens in these third world countries. So some of the states have already formed the United States Climate Alliance to uphold the previous U.S. commitment that is not a commitment. Obama self-ratified it because he couldn't get Congress to sign on to the constitutional ratification process. So he just made it up. He and Kerry signed it, so we're going to ratify it ourselves. No, it doesn't work. And he found out, as we all know, that if he comes in and just says, well, I'm going to do it by executive order, then Donald Trump comes in and says, well, I'm going to undo it by executive order. It doesn't have any effect. They said there's also 267 mayors and governors who have signed an open letter to the international community and to other parties of the Paris Agreement. However, there is a problem. Congressional Research Service says the Constitution, remember that Constitution? That thing these guys swear to that we don't usually pay any attention to, but maybe they will now. It allows for federal law to preempt state and local law in a number of areas, including foreign policy. Yes, that is not their jurisdiction. And they point out this. They said, even when there is no actual conflict between state and federal law or policy, the Supreme Court has held that a state law can still be deemed an unconstitutional intrusion into the field of foreign affairs if it results in something more than an incidental or indirect effect on U.S. foreign relations. In other words, this is kind of like the Logan Act. Remember when we have Bilderberg and we say we've got people that are engaging in setting U.S. policy. Actually, they're also doing something that is far worse, far more criminal than what Donald Trump Jr. Was even ever accused of. We got people who are at the highest level of multiple governments meeting in private. Nobody is allowed to know what they're talking about. They show up, as we saw Ed Ball from the UK shows up with a suitcase, not with clothes, filled with papers. They keep saying, oh, this is just a friendly meeting. He showed up with a suitcase filled with papers. We got it on film. My wife was there as an InfoWars reporter, shot him as all this stuff fell out of his suitcase while he was fumbling for his credentials to try to get into the place, showing what a lie this whole thing is. That is a violation of the Logan Act when you've got people who are trying to override our foreign policy, just as John McCain has done, trying to conduct foreign policy, going over and supporting ISIS in Syria. That's a violation of the Logan Act. And if these states and mayors try to get involved in setting our foreign policy with the climate Paris Agreement, that is also a violation of the Logan Act and the Constitution, I would add. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Owen Shroyer. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, and Owen Shroyer is joining me, and he's got some breaking news about a corruption case that happened in New York State. Is that correct? It was a ex-Speaker of the House, a massive bribery case, and we're going to take a look at some other court cases that are coming up. Are we winning or are we losing in the courts? Because this is where the Democrats want to fight us. And so we've got a new decision today from another judge trying to undermine Trump's travel ban that was upheld by the Supreme Court. It was shut down by local judges, by district judges, and now we've got another federal judge in Hawaii trying to expand the number of people who can be brought in. But let's take a look first at this corruption case that you've got here.
Well, this is an amazing story, David, and this is the kind of thing that I think all Americans are frustrated with, whether you identify yourself as a Republican or a Democrat or independent, whatever, and that's people that are above the law. That's one of the biggest things we have with the beef with the way the Hillary Clinton email scandal was handled. I think that we've obviously got more developments on that with Peter Smith's alleged suicide. But if you flash back to November 2015, you would have heard the story about Sheldon Silver found guilty on 7 counts of corruption. This is a man who's taking millions of dollars in bribes, pay-for-play programs, typical of a Clinton crime syndicate that you would expect. And so he's guilty. He's sentenced to 12 years in jail. I think he was 72 when that conviction was settled. Well, yesterday, the decision got reversed. Sheldon Silver's corruption conviction is overturned. And the way they did this is actually shocking, and it shows you how the Trump operates first. Ex-State Assembly Speaker Sheldon Silver's 2015 corruption was overturned by a Second Circuit Court of Appeals. Now, this is a conviction, again, $4 million in bribes in exchange for political power here that he was convicted on. This is a Bill Clinton and Jimmy Carter appointed judge. Okay, this is a Democrat appointed judge who let this Democrat Clintonite walk, okay? And the name of the judge is Circuit Judge Jose Cabranes. And the second court that he rules over said that the instructions given to jurors in Silver's case that defined an official auction were overbroad and that a properly instructed jury may not have found Silver guilty of corruption. So basically, what Jose Cabranes has said is that the judge is above the jury. That, oh, we don't agree with the jury's decision here. I'm the judge. I'm just going to go ahead and overrule that because, well, this is a Clintonite. This is a Democrat. This is one of us. So he gets to walk. And this is what Judge Cabranes said. We cannot conclude beyond a reasonable doubt that a rational jury would have found Silver guilty if it had been properly instructed on the definition of an official act.
So he doesn't like the jury's decision. So he goes, you guys are clearly irrational or misinformed, so I'm just going to overturn that conviction.
It gets even worse, though, David. It gets even worse. If you didn't think that was bad enough, in a similar case, Brooklyn Assemblyman William Boylan Jr. was convicted on the exact same grounds. So you've got 2 cases, same charges, different convictions, or different punishments. Why? Because some people are above the law. You play with the Clintons, you got blackmail with the Clintons, you're above the law. Now, Dean Scalos, who is also being looked at for the similar crime, he is trying to use the same argument that got Silver out of his jail time. So this is the swamp, David. This is how it works. You get in with the Democrats, you get appointed by the Democrats, you go for pay-for-play with the Democrats, it's all blackmailable, there's all blackmail on each other, and then they all get in the same system. Thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people in the state of New York and across this country that are locked up for petty crime, that have done nothing but maybe steal a stick of gum or maybe smoke a joint on the street. They go to jail, but Sheldon Silver, millions of dollars in bribes, gets to walk. I am infuriated over this, David. I am absolutely disgusted. This is how the swamp works, and it's still going on.
Well, it's very similar to what you were talking about before with Comey, saying, Hillary didn't have any intention. Well, that wasn't a part of the law, so we're going to let her go. And then they lock up a guy who takes pictures of where he was in his submarine. He clearly had no intention of doing anything, turning these over to the Russians. They were only up to the lowest level of confidential. We have multiple levels, confidential, secret, top secret, and then the kind of stuff that Hillary Clinton was involved in, which is above top secret. But, of course, her releasing that information, no problem. But one guy takes 3 or 4 pictures of his bunk or where he lived in the submarine to show his kids, later on his grandkids, he goes to jail. That's what we see, that double standard that is there, and that's what you're talking about here, the fact that the people at the top get off and everybody else goes to jail.
Well, and here's the funny thing. I'm glad that you brought that up, because they wanted to say that Hillary Clinton had no intent. Okay, well, if you get pulled over, exactly, if you get pulled over speeding and you say, well, officer, I had no intent to go 100 miles per hour. My car just happened to be a fast car. Yeah, that's not going to work. But that's basically what they're saying here for Silver. Another statement made from the judge: a rational jury might have concluded that Silver did not engage in an official act when he agreed to help Dr. Taub with permits for a charity race. So this is one of the cases. It's a cancer charity race. They raise a bunch of money. The race never happens. This doctor gets a bunch of people from the attorney's office who had the cancer to sue through his law firm. You know, millions of dollars, bribery, pay for play. It's all going on. The race never happens. And so the judge just says, well, Silver had no intent that the race was going to happen. We can't prove that he intended for that money to just fall into his lap. We can't. Yeah, he didn't intend for that.
He meant to do something with it eventually, but it didn't happen. So he just kept the money and he didn't return it to anybody, and he didn't hold the race, and he didn't give it to the victims.
And I'll tell you, if Dean Skelos, who is now pleading for the same case to overturn what would have been his conviction, if he gets away with this, and I was the legal team of Assemblyman William Boylan Jr., I think my head would explode, because you have two cases of the same thing and two people that walk, and your client goes to jail.
Well, just look at what's happening with the acting FBI director, McCabe, who was the #2 for Comey. His wife was running for Senate in Virginia, and the governor, Terry McAuliffe, and Hillary Clinton's foundations are being investigated. He was also he was investigating them at the time. He was investigating her for the email, her email classified stuff that we just said that Comey said, oh, we're going to let her off. As they were being investigated on this, his wife was running for office, and they made donations to her. So this is something that is this is beyond just ethical violations that are happening here. And this is a guy who's head of the FBI. So what are we going to do? The guy who is the governor in Virginia, a longtime political operative for the Clintons and the DNC, Terry McAuliffe. So this is something that is, we have rampant corruption from the top to the bottom. Something needs to be done about it. Here's another example of out-of-control courts. We had today a judge expanding on his own the list of relatives that have been exempted from the Trump travel ban. Remember, we had all these activist judges and these district courts, federal district courts saying, no, the president has no ability to set foreign policy or immigration policy or whatever, even though they allowed Obama to do that. No, when Trump does it, he can't do it. And so that was overruled by the Supreme Court. And now a federal judge in Hawaii on Thursday expanded the list of family relations. He said, no, you can't exclude grandparents, grandchildren, brothers-in-laws, sisters-in-laws, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, cousins. I mean, it's
the whole nine.
It's like, so just going to bring everybody in saying, I'm related to Muhammad over here. All the Muhammad's are related. So basically, this another judge has just come in with a trick to try to overturn the travel ban from countries that Obama was at war with. We're dropping bombs on these countries, presumably because they're dangerous. If they're not dangerous, and we don't need to vet the people who are coming in from these countries and restrict it, then why are we dropping bombs on them? Another example of the corruption in the courts, Owen, is this is a judge that is hearing the case of the Center for Medical Progress. Remember, these are people who did the underground videos of Planned Parenthood and others talking about how they wanted to traffic in baby body parts. Well, we have a district judge who has ruled against them, and he has now come after the lawyers defending this guy, holding them in contempt because they pointed out that this judge has a conflict of interest. He has been involved. He served as a board member of Planned Parenthood's affiliated Wolford Family Clinic. So this is a judge who has been a board member of a Planned Parenthood clinic, and he doesn't recuse himself from this case. And the lawyers point that out, and they try to get him removed. Now he holds the lawyers in contempt of court.
I wonder if they're going to
Contempt isn't a strong enough word, I think.
You know, Chuck Grassley called out McCabe on the Hill, I think this was either yesterday or 2 days ago, saying, why didn't you recuse yourself from the Flynn investigation when you clearly had a personal vendetta against Flynn?
That's right.
This is the same thing. This is so obvious. I'm just so confused. You've got these liberal judges, David. They think they're above the law. They think they're above juries. They think they're above the people. So they step in. You just cited the case with this travel ban. So they step in and they take themselves above the law. They take themselves above whatever is the case. Where are the conservatives to do this? Where are the conservatives that are going to step in and put their foot down in the sand and say, enough? This is enough. There is clearly collusion between McCabe, the Clintons, the Comeys, these judges that are overturning the travel ban, these judges that are setting silvers. When are we going to have somebody take these people down? When is a conservative going to step up? Chuck Grassley seems to be the only one doing it right now. I'd like to see Trey Gowdy go harder. Trump is trying to endear himself to the entire world right now. Somebody has to step up and do something about this, David. I'm getting fed up.
You mentioned McCabe and his conflict of interest with Flynn. He is under investigation 3 or 4 different cases because that was a situation of sexual harassment. Flynn got on his bad side by writing a letter of recommendation for the woman who he'd worked with for a very long time. And that's the kind of guy that Flynn is. If he sees something that is wrong, he will speak out. That's what got him fired from the Obama administration. He talked about how we were helping ISIS, so they got him out of there. Then he gets on the bad side of Andrew McCabe and the FBI because he defends a woman who was doing great work and all of a sudden gets shut down. When we come back, we're going to talk about why Trump has obstacles here in the courts. It's because they've been packed by Obama. And because these guys have lifetime appointments, like the Supreme Court. That's what needs to be changed if we really want to drain the swamp. Get rid of these lifetime appointments. Stay with us. We'll be right back. David Knight, Owen Shroyer. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight here with Owen Shroyer. And Owen brought in the story about the judge who just overturned a jury conviction of corruption of the leader of the New York Assembly. It was a massive bribery and corruption charge. And the judge says, well, I don't see how a jury could have convicted him unless they really didn't know what they're doing. So I'm just going to set that aside.
And you know what's interesting about the rhetoric, and I know we need to move on here, but it's the same thing that Comey said. This is what the judge said. A rational jury. Rational jury. Remember what Comey said? No rational prosecutor.
Yeah, that's how they rationalize their
Yeah, we're not rational. The people aren't allowed to be rational. We, the people, don't have the capacity to be rational anymore, David. That's what it is.
So we should have had a judge who has overturned the Trump travel ban being reinstated by the Supreme Court. He comes back in and he says, oh, well, we're going to extend this from the immediate family. We're going to include in-laws and cousins and aunts and uncles and all this kind of stuff, but broadening this. So what are we going to do about this? As we've got the other case we talked about was the judge in California looking at the Center for Medical Progress, their undercover investigation of Planned Parenthood. The judge there is sitting on the board of Planned Parenthood, refuses to recuse himself, and when the lawyers say you have a conflict of interest and try to get him removed, he comes after them for contempt of court. These corrupt courts, what are we going to do about them? Well, the courts that are very key in this, the Washington Appeals Court and 2 appellate courts that have been ruling against Trump's travel ban, Reuters points out it's going to be difficult for Donald Trump to do anything about that. He just had some conservative picks that he put into federal courts, and so that's a win, and Daily Caller reports on that. But are we winning or losing? What can we do about these courts? The problem is, this is Arthur Hellman, a professor at the University of Pittsburgh School of Law. I said, Trump is not going to be able to make any significant dents into the Democrats' control of those 3 appellate courts, those appellate circuits. And it's not even that. It's much worse than that. They say after 8 years in office, Obama was able to make enough appointments to leave a strong liberal imprint on the federal courts. When he left the White House in January, 9 of the 13 federal appellate courts had a majority of Democrats. So they have lifetime appointments. Today we had some conservative judges appointed by Trump, and it was a victory. They said a Senate panel cleared several of President Trump's judicial nominees just hours before the White House announced its 5th slate of judicial candidates, but still in these key areas. So it's a win on one side, but on the other side, Obama's got a block. 9 out of the 13 appellate courts. So these appellate courts that can overturn this stuff, that can shut down and block what President Trump is doing, they have been packed by Obama, and they have lifetime appointments, many of these people. Today we had conservative legal commentators, though, enthusiastically praising the picks that President Trump had. Newsom, Bush, Schiff as solid picks with excellent jurisprudential bona fides. They said, thank you, President Trump, for keeping your campaign promise, continuing to pick excellent nominees, including those that were voted on today. That was the Council of the Conservative Judicial Crisis Network. So there's some progress that's being made, but it is really, really clogged.
But Obama was able to do all of this and get away with it because no media was going to report on it. Nobody was going to, put out the stories that Obama was creating a judicial block here with all these judges that he appointed. But it's amazing to hear you break that down, and it just makes me realize how the judiciary branch of the government does not represent the people whatsoever.
No.
It has zero representation of we the people, zero representation of the way the republic feels right now. And
we never vote for these people. They get appointed politically.
Exactly.
Just like the Supreme Court. We got 9 political appointees there for life. We have absolutely nothing to say about it. And that happens all the way down the federal judiciary. And that's the key thing. Our elected representatives in Congress have basically abdicated everything that they do. They've abdicated it to the lobbyists who write the laws, to the bureaucracy that then extends those laws and enforces those laws, and to the courts. And they don't do any, our elected representatives don't do anything in Congress. It's all the courts and the bureaucracy that is doing this.
Well, we all have bias, okay? And a judge, judiciary, there's always going to be some bias. It's just inherent. But here's the difference to me, David. When you put in a liberal judge, they go into that seat with a mindset, an agenda, a political agenda, an anti-American because America's bad and sexist and racist, and now I'm a judge. Now I can do something about it. Now I can make a difference. That's the mindset that they go in with. Now, the conservative judge goes in, again, everybody's got their bias, but the mindset to me of a conservative judge is, okay, I need to take a look at how this relates to the Constitution. I need to think about what this means to the Republic, what this means to the Constitution, what this means to the future of this country. A totally different mindset, a totally different agenda. It's an agenda-driven judiciary branch versus a justice-driven judiciary branch, and it's clear what we have right now.
What the liberals say is we have a living Constitution. We have living documents. The written words don't mean anything. That was the big split between the people like Scalia and hopefully his replacement, Neil Gorsuch, and the people on the left. The people on the left said, I'm just going to do whatever is in the best interest of the people. I don't really care what this says. Or even Justice Kennedy, who looks at foreign law to make his decision, not the Constitution. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Owen Shroyer. I'm David Knight. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show on this Friday, July 14th, 2017. I'm David Knight with Owen Shroyer. We're going to have a report from Alex Jones talking about this Wall Street Journal story. The post office gives Amazon special delivery subsidies of $1.46 per package. You know, we have free shipping. You don't have to buy InfoWars Prime at $10 a month like you do with Amazon. We give you free shipping for the month of July. We also give you free video. You can watch us for free. You can go on the internet and take a look at it. We absorb those bandwidth issues if you're listening through our app. You can also go to YouTube and catch our videos. But if you
even auto ship is free. Even our auto ship is free.
Our auto ship. That's right. If you sign up for auto ship and you get free shipping if your order is $50 a month or more, and that's a way to make sure that you never run out of product. But we have a special that is going on right now, our July summer mega special that's going to go through the end of July at InfoWarsStore.com. Free shipping, store-wide, on everything for everybody, whatever quantity you get. And we have, in addition to that, discounts, 30% off of these products, some of our most popular products. Brain Force Plus, Super Male Vitality. We have Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine, Gut Health Support Pack. All of those are 30% off, and we have 30 to 40% off InfoWars Select Storable Food. A great time to stock up on that. Free shipping, plus 30 to 40% off of InfoWars Select Storable Food. That lasts for 25 years, and once you open it, you can still reseal it with a zip. It's all made in the U.S., no GMO products and any of that. Also, 25% off Secret 12. That's our vitamin B12 formulation that you can take sublingually. You can put that under your tongue instead of having to take an injection. And DNA Force, one of our premier products, 20% off. All of that, in addition to free shipping, part of our July summer mega specials, now live at InfoWarsStore.com. Let's go to Alex's report where he's talking about Amazon, as we see that Jeff Bezos is on target to become the richest man in the world, but then he gets subsidies from the U.S. government for shipping his mail-order products as he puts out bricks and mortar stores are going out of business left and right. Here's that report from Alex Jones.
It's less and less common to read mainstream media and see a story that actually tells the truth and actually stands up for the general public in a free and open society. But I read one of those articles today by a Josh Sandbutte from the Wall Street Journal, why the post office gives Amazon special delivery. A Citigroup analysis finds each box gets a $1.46 subsidy. It's like a giant gift card from Uncle Sam. And behind every mega-rich person, whether it's Warren Buffett or Carlos Slim or the Rockefeller and Rothschild dynasties, it's government, corporate partnerships that create the mega super wealthy. And that's why John D. the First famously wrote and stated many times that the cardinal sin was competition. Crony capitalists want consolidation. They want governmental and multinational control, which they write and which they are largely exempt from, just like the UN diplomatic community and tax community and all the rest of it set up by the Rockefellers. And in this article, he breaks down, well, I drive by all the retail collapsing and think, oh, that's just free market. There'll be winners and losers. But then he realizes, as a business researcher and writer, that the truth is, when the trucks pull up to his house and neighbors' houses, they each have a $1.46 subsidy on the average package from the U.S. Postal Service, delivering it to your door cheaper than it costs the Postal Service. But here's the deal. Only big mega corporations basically get the subsidiary, and the more they ship, the more they get. And so that's why we have to offer free shipping to even attract people to InfoWarsStore.com, even though we have a lot of proprietary great products, because Amazon has created this climate. And it's not free market. It's done by subsidizing their system via the taxpayers. Just like Carlos Slim made $10 billion roughly in profit off of the Obama phone program that cost, what was it, $3 billion or more a year. Okay? And he's one of the richest men in the world. It's in between Bezos of Amazon and then the Washington Post and Whole Foods. It's in between that, Robert Barron, and it's in between Carlos Slim. Now that's who publicly is the richest. There's a lot of old money that's even bigger than that. But they go over this whole subsidy that's behind it, and that's why I've told my wife, I've told everybody, if something is available somewhere else, even if it's another big company, try to go buy it from them or a mom and pop, or let's go to the farmer's market. We've got to keep competition alive because these monopolies are coming in and are devastating things. And it's time to break these monopolies up. Until a few years ago, we sold our items on Amazon, and we sold quite a bit. A lot of folks buy our items and resell them. There's also some Chinese fakes on Amazon. That's how popular InfoWarsLife.com is. But I said, let's just pull our Amazon shopping carts because I don't want to contribute to this. But it's getting to a point where if you can't beat them, join them. Well, I'm going to hold out. And I'm going to believe folks are going to keep visiting InfoWarsStore.com and supporting us there and buying products there. And this isn't about just a plug today. This is about realizing that I talk to my neighbors and others, and I say, listen, we don't go to Starbucks anymore because they're trying to bring in radical jihadis and pushing to implode our borders and globalism. I've told, my assistant, please don't buy Starbucks coffee here at my house anymore. I said, just get a grinder. We'll grind the good coffee we sell. It's better. It's organic. And then I'll put it in the little Keurig machine. But again, the globalists promote things like the Keurig machine, the little systems where you put the little capsule in there, because it's all about removing you from the raw material, removing you from processing yourself. It's like having these automatic can openers where a machine does it. We're being dehumanized. I'm not saying it's bad to automate some things. It's like wearing shoes or having a car. It's just that it's being designed as a Trojan horse to weaken us, to domesticate us, and the social engineers admit that. So the article's very, very important. It goes over how all of this happens, and then they claim it's an accident. No, this isn't an accident. This arrangement is an unprecedented accident of history. The post office has long had a legal monopoly to deliver first-class mail on urgent letters. The exclusivity comes with a universal service obligation to provide for all Americans a uniform price and quality. The communication service helps knit the vast country together, and the Postal Service exists. It's how they exist. And then it just goes on to explain how all this works. The point is, it's one monopoly or oligopoly allowing another oligopoly to basically turn into a monopoly. And it's these big, massive taxpayer-backed structures that allow this. And if you expand on that, look at healthcare. Undoubtedly, by the 1960s, the United States had the best healthcare in the world. Japanese royalty came here. British royalty came here. The Saudi rich people came here. Everybody came here. National Health Service of England was a nightmare. Canada system's a nightmare. On and on and on. And then as we put more and more government money in, just like education, it drove up the price and it destroyed basic competition. And now it's a huge bureaucratic nightmare with the big insurance companies and banks riding Obamacare bipartisanly to bankrupt smaller companies and bankrupt smaller healthcare companies and consolidate the market. And that's what Elizabeth Warren admits. It's what Ezekiel Emanuel admits. And that's what's frustrating is they admit it, but act like blowing up competition and vertically integrating things is somehow socialist and loving and liberal when it's a bunch of mega corporations that run it. It's globalists that exploit China's slave labor that, of course, Walmart did first for decades and now is in decline because other people are imitating it. And it's the same thing. Now we have Amazon eating Walmart. So first Walmart ate Main Street. Now we see Amazon eating everything. So back to David Knight in the live transmission. The whole article, gets into the basics of it. And you can claim it's, quote, an accident, but these big corporations use all these loopholes to their advantage and then try to shut the loopholes off to everybody else and pull up the ladders of success. That's what globalism is. Its great crime is. It's pushing austerity on everybody. And Trump's great plus is he recognizes that is trying to fight it. He's certainly imperfect, but again, imagine if we had Hillary Clinton in there right now, and imagine if they get back in power, what they're going to do. They're going to clamp down on everything. Back to David Knight. Back to Leanne McAdoo, back to Owen Shroyer and others in the live studio, Infowars.com. Spread that link. It is an act of resistance. Seriously, folks are trying to shut us down, and they can shut us down or weaken us or keep us from breaking through even more. You're next. We're all next. We're in this together. Alex Jones with Infowars.com. Again, if you're watching or listening to this transmission, you are the reason we're here, and I salute you and thank you for all you've done. Please remember we have free shipping through the month of July. Our average package costs us over $7 to ship for the average weight and average package for priority. And so when we're selling something for $20 and we're making $10 on it, and then we do free shipping, we're making like $3. But I'm just absolutely giving the enemy a run for their money. And we always have free shipping, $50 and more. We have 10% off when you sign up for auto ships. You can get stuff that you need to reorder, like vitamins and minerals and supplements and coffee. But just please commit to supporting free market that also supports your freedoms and tirelessly fights InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com. You can also call and talk to a human, 888-253-3139. We have DNA Force back in stock, 20% off. We have Myco ZX, the amazing paradigm that completes the circle when it comes to probiotics, knocks out the yeast and all the rest of the garbage. It's all available, InfoWarsStore.com. Be sure and get your CNN is fake news t-shirts on the back. InfoWars.com is real news. Great way to meet people and spread the word and break the back of those censors. Again, back to David Knight and the rest of the amazing crew. And I'll be back live this Sunday, Lord willing, 4 to 6 p.m. Central. Again, thank you all for the support.
All right, I'm David Knight here with Owen Shroyer. As Alex was just saying about Amazon, we look at these 21st century robber barons, and one of the best examples of this, of course, is Jeff Bezos. When he's talking about what's going on with the post office, I remember, Owen, decades ago, 20-plus years ago, some of the people that were involved in the Libertarian Party were working for UPS, and they were very upset about what was going on with the post office because the post office was using its monopoly on letters to subsidize competing with UPS and with Federal Express on packages and on overnight delivery of, the package. What made Federal Express popular was their overnight delivery of letters. UPS was focusing on parcels, and so the Postal Service was using its letter-carrying stuff to subsidize those parcel deliveries. But then they got in trouble, as this article points out. In the early 2000s, email started making snail mail go away, and so their protected monopoly started collapsing. And it got even harder for them because in 2006, Congress passed an act that made it unlawful for them to ship parcels at below cost. But as the article points out, that's very subjective. Who knows, because this stuff all flows together. How do you assess the cost of delivering a letter and delivering a parcel at the same time? The guy's going out there at the same time. How do you split the cost of one versus the other? So that gave them wiggle room. And that's what allows Amazon to come in and get a $1.46 subsidy off of this because they're big enough to take advantage of this in a way that other people can't. So you got a government monopoly setting up a situation where one of these oligarchists can come in and they can take advantage of that in a way that the rest of us can't. That's the problem that we see being replicated over and over again in our economy. We're going to see it with transportation very soon. They're going to make it impossible for you to own a car because the city planners, the urban planners, the people who want to enforce Agenda 21, or as they now call it, the 2030 UN Agenda for Sustainability, they don't want you to have the ability to move around independent of them. They want to own your transportation. Understand, this is full-on warfare. And if you're in warfare against the people, against their freedom, you have to control the movement, the transportation. It's the first thing, if you got an invading army, the first thing they're going to do is come in and shut off the means of transportation. That's what they're going to be doing to us shortly. They always want to own everything. And when we look at what's happening with Jeff Bezos and the articles that have come out in the Drudge Report, many others today over this last week, people have said, Amazon is getting so big, I'm putting them on my sale list because I have seen that there are things working in Washington to essentially shut down what is rapidly becoming a monopoly. Nevertheless, Jeff Bezos is about to become the richest man in the world. He made $20 billion increase in his net worth. And Owen, as we were talking during the break, I said, that's equivalent, if you look at him buying the Washington Post, because that's what he's thinking strategically. He understands there's going to be antitrust movements against him in Washington. He also understands that he wants to be able to deliver packages himself with his own drones. He's going to have government approval for that to give him an advantage over everybody else. He'll be allowed to use drones to deliver stuff, but you won't with your small business because you're not going to be able to pass the regulatory hurdles. He's going to make sure that that happens. He's also going to make sure that he has access to what he wants to do in space. An important part of that is to get politically involved with the Washington Post. We've seen the Washington Post get very politicized after Jeff Bezos bought it. What did it cost him? Well, if we look at the kind of money that he's making and the amount of money that he paid for the Washington Post, $250 million sounds like a lot of money, except when we look at somebody who made $20 billion in just 5 months. Let's normalize that to somebody that is making $50,000, which is what the average American makes. That would mean that you could buy the Amazon Post for $300. I mean, would you buy a paper that you could use to influence Washington for $300? Of course you would, and that's exactly what he's doing. That's the way this guy is playing the game. It's very, very dangerous.
Well, not only that, you would also do it if you knew that some of the money of that 300 was coming from the government. If you were saying, I'm getting 150 of that from the government, 50%, well, heck yeah. And that is what they're trying to do. Bezos, Slim, Buffett, publicly pleading poverty, ask Congress for help with their newspapers. So
the richest men in the world.
Failing. Yeah. And this is a typical thing. I mean, you know, you'll actually see this a lot in media companies that fail. They try to get government bailouts, and it usually is the richest people at the company that get these bailouts because they don't want to pay these bills. They don't want to make this bad business deal. But it's absurd that, again, as the story in the New York Sun points out, Bezos worth over 80 million, Slim worth over 60 billion, Buffett worth over 70 billion. That's that we know of. And these people want money from the government to save their failing businesses? Excuse me, that's not how America works. And now it gets back to what you were talking about and how Amazon is now going to get this nice little kickback from the government, basically, with these parcels that they're going to be sending out.
Oh, they're getting it. They're getting it. They're able to take advantage of that.
Well, it makes sense. You say, okay, well, of course, that makes sense for the private business owner. He's going to make more money. His business is going to be more successful. That makes sense for the government. The government's going to have some say. The government's going to have some control. They're going to have a little leverage in this situation, considering they're involved now. But you know what it doesn't make sense for? It doesn't make sense for America. It doesn't make sense for the consumer. It doesn't make sense for the republic. And that's the problem. Nobody is thinking about that when they're making these deals. They're thinking about the bottom line. And this is where government has gone wrong. You know, that was what the government was supposed to be here to do, to just watch the antitrust, to make sure that freedoms were being protected, and that we still lived in a republic ruled by the Constitution. And that's just, the government's completely missed that. And this is the kind of same story when you hear these newspaper owners that, just like you said, they buy these newspapers for pennies on the dollar just for political influence. That's it. Not even to make money. They don't need the money.
You know, going back into the middle of the 1800s.
It's just like, I just want to finish it. It's just like when you have a billionaire sports team owner asking taxpayers to pay for their stadiums.
Oh, yeah. They always get the subsidies.
What?
Yeah, so that we can watch the millionaires play ball. Yeah. Play
and the billionaires get richer.
Game. Yeah. So we give money to the billionaires to build their stadium, then we watch the millionaires play a child game.
Wait. I want you to pay to build the stadium and then pay to come and can use it too.
You know, libertarians have always fought this postal monopoly. We had Lysander Spooner. Look him up. This is a guy that brought the post office to its knees. They were charging outrageous fees, and he went into competition with them. got it as a fraction, and that's one of the ways that they put in to protect themselves, these monopoly laws. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. David Knight here with Owen Shroyer. Mike Cernovich is going to be coming up in the fourth hour. We got an interesting story here about Mark Zuckerberg finally figuring out why Trump won. We're going to cover that story here in just a moment. Before we do, real quickly, I want to remind you that Myco ZX, that's our fungus and yeast cleaner, is now back in stock at InfoWarsLife.com. If you want to make sure that you don't run out of products, you can always sign up for auto ship. If you sign up for $50 or more, you get free shipping, and you will never run out if you sign up for auto ship. You pick the product and the interval that you want shipped, and we'll make sure that you get that. And for the month of July, we have free shipping. So if you want to try something that you haven't tried before, take a look at the reviews that we have. We have reviews on our site. People tell you what they think of the products, and look at the descriptions, decide if that's something you want to try, and you can get that for free shipping in the month of July at InfoWarsStore.com. Also, discounts on some of our most popular products, things like Brain Force, Super Male Vitality, Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine, Gut Health Support Pack, all of those, 30% off. Plus, InfoWars Select Storable Food, 30 to 40% off, plus free shipping, again, store-wide. And we have Secret 12 back in stock at 25% off, and DNA Force back in stock at 20% off. Take advantage of this July special that we have at InfoWarsStore.com. We really appreciate your support. That is how we fund our operation. Let's talk about Mark Zuckerberg and what he figured out. It's an interesting story from Zero Hedge, a little bit of sarcasm. They point out, as Zuckerberg apparently learned for the first time while visiting oil workers in North Dakota, there are entire industries that exist outside of Silicon Valley. And you know what? Those industries that are outside of Silicon Valley are some of the same industries that Obama and Hillary Clinton had said they were going to shut down. So he's starting to get an idea of why people voted for Trump. This is what he wrote in his Facebook post when he talked to some of these people. He said he went to a town where there were tens of thousands of workers who had moved from all over the country to pursue new jobs in an industry where they could get, with just a high school diploma, they could get $100,000 a year working in the oil business. And he says when the Dakota Access Pipeline was approved, it removed a $6 to $7 per barrel cost of producing oil in the region. He said it brought more investment and jobs there. And this is the interesting thing. A number of people told me they had felt their livelihood was blocked by the government. No, really? You mean when Hillary Clinton said, and Obama said, we're going to bankrupt you if you do coal? They're going to bankrupt the country because that's what our energy is based on. But when Trump approved the pipeline, they felt a sense of hope again. Remember that word, hope? Remember how Barack Obama used it? And he gave us a false hope. No, these people had a real hope. They said one person told me the night the pipeline was approved, people lit fireworks and they rode trucks with American flags up and down Main Street to celebrate. So there's the education of Zuckerberg. He finally went to flyover country and he talked to some people about why they voted, and it didn't have anything to do with the Russians. It had to do with the Democrats who wanted to shut down their jobs, shut down our economies, and they were sick and tired of it.
You know, when you talk about the hope thing, the fake hope about Obama, it reminded me of how Michelle Obama came out after Trump got elected and said, well, I think now people aren't feeling hope. Now I don't feel hope. Michelle Obama saying now there is no hope because Trump got elected. Well, yeah. Again, another example of, well, she's probably just completely fake news, or you could say out of touch with reality. This is hope. Trump is the real hope. Trump is the first time people actually had hope. And the people that bought in to the hope that Obama was selling, they realized he was a fraud. Now they're on the hope for Trump. So,
and you know, there's nothing in here about racism. You know, people could go to they needed a high school diploma. Not even need that probably, but no matter what race you were, you could go there to get a job because the economy wasn't being shut down. That was opportunity for anybody, regardless of what color they were. That is real hope.
No, there's no hope. Stuff. No hope, David. Just fireworks and American flags and celebration. Sounds like there's no hope in an oil country here.
Stay with us. We'll be right back, and then Mike Cernovich is going to be taking over in the fourth hour.